This is my verbal reflections on my website. I'll break down every single page and my reflections on it, what I think I did very well, what I don't think went very well, what I'd like to change, and how I'd approach things differently in the future if I was to create another site similar to this. So the homepage is probably the page I am most proud of. I think it's the best one. I think it definitely sells the documentary, the theme, the colour scheme, everything. The colour scheme was a big thing. I wanted to make sure I kept consistent throughout the website. Obviously, as discussed in my proposals, I wanted to go for sort of a Netflix style. So I made sure to sort of emulate that sort of colour scheme across my website. The sign up today button, of course, on the homepage, I believe it's sort of that sells the world building around the documentary, with it being actually obviously not a Netflix documentary, but it helps to sell that sort of effect. And the watch now button obviously serves to be able to open up the channel. Overall, I think the TikToks, I think it's a good use of short form content, as I've discussed throughout my project, which engages my audience. So I think that's something that I'm very happy with. I think the TikToks potentially could have been slightly higher quality, and they could have maybe been a bit more engaging and a little bit differently, and just completely different and not necessarily as related to the documentary as they are. Maybe something a bit more promoty or promotionally. So that's something that I could potentially look at doing in the future upon reflection. I obviously have the outline of the tackle of the project, which I think helps break down and shows my audience and shows people that are looking into my project sort of what I was trying to do and what I was outlining and what I was aiming to do when I was creating the actual project, and they can almost sort of gauge themselves whether or not I achieved what I wanted to do. And then of course I've obviously got all of my other stuff on there. The research page I think displays my work very well. I think it displays the all of my research that I've done throughout the course and throughout to support my target audience and support the actual research that I've obviously had to find for the body of the actual documentary and different things about building the correct documentary and making sure that things work well and everything's perfect. So I think reflecting on that, it's the page itself is very good and serves the purpose of exactly what I want it to do, which is just display the work as best as I possibly can. The evaluation and reflection page is exactly the same. It obviously have that brief little description, and then I've obviously got the evaluation on there, which I'm very happy with, and then the reflections, which is obviously what this actually is. Then the pre-production page. This is the page that, on reflection, I wish I'd potentially looked at changing a few things, making it laid out a little bit better. Some of the pages don't quite line up with other ones, and it maybe looks not sloppy, but a little bit messy and a little bit untidy at times. So it's something that I definitely wish I'd changed and made it look a little bit better. And the other potential problem could be that they might have to zoom in when they're viewing some of the pre-production, because obviously some of the font and some of the text is small. So that might be something that I look to do when I'm reflecting on it, that making the actual size of it a lot bigger, because it's probably not big enough to read on certain documents and certain pages. So that is something that I definitely need to do. But yeah, if I could go back and change things, it would be my number one top priority would be to change the layout of it as best possible to try and make it. It is hard to make it all look cohesive because each document's a different size, a different shape, a different scale. But I do wish that that's something I'd potentially done to make it all look a little bit more tidy and a little bit better. The experimentation page is probably my second favourite page. That's obviously got all of my experiments on there, linked and uploaded to my YouTube channel, which is separate from the YouTube channel I've used to promote the film. I've got two YouTube channels. This YouTube channel is just literally to put all of the footage on because the file sizes are too big to upload directly to the website. Upon reflection, I wish I'd sort of made the differences clear, and in an ideal world, I'd have been able to attach the videos to the actual PowerPoint that they are within and embedded within, because this would have sold it better, and you'd, instead of having to read my description and my reflections upon it and then go and look at the video, you'd be able to directly do it within the PowerPoint. However, that was a limitation of the website, and that just simply wouldn't let me do it. But if I could, that is definitely something I'd look to do, because I think that I'd sell it a lot better and make it a lot more easier and readable. Finally, my presentation page. This page is to sort of show off how I've sold the product, how I've promoted the product as well. Obviously, I've got the YouTube link, the Instagram link, the TikTok link. I think this page looks quite clean and it's quite tidy. The paragraph I've written explains what this page is actually about. And then I obviously have my PowerPoint slide at the bottom, which reflects on why I've used, what platforms I've used, how I've used them, and the different features within that platform that I've actually used, and the different features that I've used to be able to promote the film. And yeah, I think overall this page looks very good. Things I'd do to improve it, perhaps maybe change the size of the logos. They are a little bit big, but I also need it to be very clear. So it's sort of that difficult balance. I found that throughout the entire website, that the balance between making it look good and making it clear is it's difficult. But I have also made sure that the social media is linked on the homepage as well, and I think that sort of the little bit in the corner looks a lot better than having the big logos. But it is important that obviously when showing off my work, nothing's overlooked, so it's important that it is big and clear for marketing purposes. When creating the website, some of the challenges I faced was learning the software and learning the UI itself, because it's not something that I've used throughout the course. The UI itself and everything it's fairly self-explanatory. The only main problem I encountered was getting my PowerPoints into a format that looks presentable and looks good. The way that I did this was I went in, and they have a feature called the slideshow feature, so I used this, and I exported the PowerPoint into, you can export it to images and then unzip the file, and then copied the pictures from the folder from the unzip file into the slideshow, and then that creates sort of the slideshow effect you see present on my website. I think this looks a lot cleaner than just screenshotting every image and making it like that. I don't think that would look as aesthetically pleasing, so I think that feature was definitely a good pick from me. It could be a bit finicky, the website itself. Perhaps in the future, if I was to make something like this again, I'd look to use a different software or something that I'm a little bit more familiar with. But I did want to push myself and use a software that I've never tried before, because I believe obviously to expand in my horizons and sort of allow me to have more under my tool belt. The bar at the top, the home bar, that was difficult to make as well, because it's because of the way it's set up. Had to create sort of a group of my home bar, and whenever I wanted to make any changes or add anything to that, I did find that problematic, because initially I didn't have the screen logo. When I added that in, that was quite problematic and caused a lot of problems for my website as a whole. But I am glad I managed to do it, because I do think it looks quite good overall.